October 10, 1943, 25,000 feet above Nazi Germany. Second Lieutenant Daniel Danny Mercer grips the control yoke of his Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, serial number 4229817, call sign Lucky Bell. Frost creeps across the inside of the cockpit glass. His oxygen mask smells of rubber and fear. Below them lies Bremen submarine pens, rail yards, and factories feeding the German war machine. Above them, the sky is already black with flak. Bandits at 3 o'clock high. The top turret gunner shouts through static. Mercer doesn't look. He feels it, the tremor of engines pushed to their limit, the tight formation of the 91st Bomb Group holding steady. Silver bombers stretching to the horizon, tight, disciplined, vulnerable. The first burst of 88mm flak rocks the aircraft. The plane shudders like a living thing struck in the ribs. Steady, Mercer mutters. To his right, co-pilot Frank Daly wipes blood from a cut over his eyebrow. We're good. Still holding altitude. They aren't good. Out of the sun, Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters dive like hawks. Yellow noses, black crosses. They rake the formation head-on. The most lethal angle against a bomber's thin frontal armor. Tracer rounds stitch across the nose. The plexiglass spider webs. Mercer sees another. B-17 Liberty Run slide into position off their left wing. Too close. Formation is collapsing under the flak bursts. Ease left. Daly warns. Then it happens. A shell detonates directly between the two fortresses. The world turns white. The explosion punches Lucky Bell sideways. Mercer feels the sickening drop of lost lift. The left wing dips violently. Through fractured glass, he sees the impossible. Liberty Run is drifting into them. There's no time to correct. Metal screams. The two bombers collide. Mid-air wingtip to fuselage like colliding freight trains in the sky. The impact throws Mercer forward against his straps. The cockpit fills with smoke and shredded aluminum. Something tears across the left wing. He feels it, not hears it, the grinding vibration of aircraft skin ripping open. Fire in 3, someone screams, but they aren't falling. Mercer blinks through smoke. The control column is still in his hands. Engines are still running. And impossibly, the plane is still flying. He looks left. What he sees makes his blood run cold. The left wing of Lucky Bell is fused, embedded into the shattered remains of the other B-17's fuselage. The two bombers are tangled together, locked by torn metal and twisted spars. They are no longer two aircraft. They are one broken, screaming machine, held together by physics that should not exist. Below them, German fighters circle in disbelief. And on the ground, far beneath the clouds, civilians and PAL labor details stare upward at something they will never forget. Because the two American bombers are not falling. They are limping forward together, deeper into enemy sky. The control column vibrates violently in Danny Mercer's hands. The two bombers are locked together. Lucky Bell and what remains of Liberty Run, their aluminum skins torn open, spars twisted like broken bones. The left wing of Mercer's aircraft is buried halfway into the other B-17's fuselage just behind its radio compartment. They should be falling. They are not. 4's out. The engineer shouts. Engine 4's gone. The outboard right engine coughs black smoke and dies. The aircraft yaws hard. Mercer fights the rudder pedals, legs shaking inside fleece-lined boots. At 25,000 feet, every correction feels delayed, heavy, unreal. Through drifting smoke he can see into the other cockpit. The pilot of Liberty Run, helmet cracked, face streaked with blood, is slumped over his controls. No movement. The co-pilot is gone, torn free in the collision. Their nose section is crushed, but their right wing is still intact, and its engines are still turning. The realization hits Mercer like a punch. Both aircraft are sharing lift. Two broken bombers, fused by wreckage, are somehow balancing each other in the thin air above Germany. Danny, we're flying on their wing, Daly whispers. Mercer nods once. There is no time for awe. Flak bursts again closer. Shrapnel rips through the tangled metal, punching new holes. One fragment slashes through the radio room. A scream cuts off abruptly. Bomb bay doors. Mercer calls. Hydraulics gone. Comes the reply. The bomb load 10 500-pounders still hangs inside. Lucky Bell, dead weight. If they can't drop them, they will never make it home. German fighters circle but do not attack immediately. Even the Luftwaffe pilots seem stunned, watching the grotesque shape struggle forward. One Messerschmitt Bf-109 edges closer, pacing them cautiously. The German pilot tilts his wings slightly as if studying a wounded animal. Mercer keeps his eyes forward. Feather 3, he orders. We cut drag wherever we can. The propeller slows, then locks. Altitude, 24,000 feet, slowly bleeding. The bomb run approaches. Against all logic, The bomb group continues ahead. Discipline overrides shock. The lead bombardier opens his doors. Silver shapes begin dropping in sequence. Mercer has a choice. Turn back now and break formation alone. Crippled, certain prey. Or hold steady, drop the bombs, and lighten the impossible aircraft. Hold it, he says quietly. Daly stares at him. You're kidding. We finished the run. The Norden bombsight operator crawls forward through smoke. Glass crunches under his boots. He kneels, peers through the sight, adjusts for drift and failing speed. Steady, steady. Flak erupts around them, black blossoms tearing at the sky. Bombs away. The aircraft jolts upward as 5,000 pounds vanish. For a moment, the tangled machine climbs. Just a little. On the ground below, German factory workers and foreign PAL laborers stare upward in disbelief at the silhouette of two bombers welded together in the clouds. The control column vibrates violently in Danny Mercer's hands. The two bombers are locked together. Lucky Ball and what remains of Liberty run, their aluminum skins torn open, spars twisted like broken bones. The left wing of Mercer's aircraft is buried halfway into the other. B-17's fuselage just behind. Its radio compartment. They should be falling. They are not. Four's out. The engineer shouts. Engine 4's gone. The outboard right engine coughs black smoke and dies. The aircraft yaws hard. Mercer fights the rudder pedals, legs shaking inside fleece-lined boots. At 25,000 feet, every correction feels delayed, heavy, unreal. Through drifting smoke he can see into the other cockpit. The pilot of Liberty Run helmet cracked, face streaked with blood is slumped over his controls. No movement. The co-pilot is gone, torn free in the collision. Their nose section is crushed, but their right wing is still intact, and its engines are still turning. The realization hits Mercer like a punch. Both aircraft are sharing lift. Two broken bombers, fused by wreckage, are somehow balancing each other in the thin air above Germany. Danny, we're flying on their wing, Daly whispers. Mercer nods once. There is no time for awe. Flak bursts again closer. Shrapnel rips through the tangled metal, punching new holes. One fragment slashes through the radio room. A scream cuts off abruptly. Bomb bay doors. Mercer calls. Hydraulics gone. Comes the reply. The bomb load 10 500-pounders still hangs inside. Lucky Bell, dead weight. If they can't drop them, they will never make it home. German fighters circle but do not attack immediately. Even the Luftwaffe pilots seem stunned, watching the grotesque shape struggle forward. One Messerschmitt Bf-109 edges closer, pacing them cautiously. The German pilot tilts his wings slightly as if studying a wounded animal. Mercer keeps his eyes forward. Feather 3, he orders. We cut drag wherever we can. The propeller slows, then locks. Altitude, 24,000 feet, slowly bleeding. The bomb run approaches. Against all logic, the bomb group continues ahead. Discipline overrides shock. The lead bombardier opens his doors. Silver shapes begin dropping in sequence. Mercer has a choice. Turn back now and break formation alone. Crippled, certain prey. Or hold steady, drop the bombs, and lighten the impossible aircraft. Hold it, he says quietly. Daly stares at him. You're kidding. We finished the run. The Norden bombsight operator crawls forward through smoke. Glass crunches under his boots. He kneels, peers through the sight, adjusts for drift and failing speed. Steady, steady. Flak erupts around them, black blossoms tearing at the sky. Bombs away. The aircraft jolts upward as 5,000 pounds vanish. For a moment, the tangled machine climbs. Just a little. On the ground below, German factory workers and foreign PAL laborers stare upward in disbelief at the silhouette of two bombers welded together in the nose drops. Cold air slams against the cockpit glass as Danny Mercer forces the fused bombers into a controlled dive. The airspeed needle creeps past 180, 200, 220 miles per hour. The tangled aluminum between Lucky Bell and Liberty Run begins to howl. It is not a sound made for human ears. It is metal being asked to survive the impossible. 300 knots and she rip. The engineer warns. Mercer holds steady. Not too steep, not too fast. The tail of Liberty Run swings again harder, this time like a pendulum made of steel and desperation. The cracked vertical stabilizer shears halfway through. The entire rear fuselage twists violently. Altitude, 15,000 feet. Below them, fields rush closer, villages grow larger, and on a labor site near the edge of a rail yard, a group of women pause in their work, German auxiliaries and foreign POW laborers bundled in heavy coats. One of them shields her eyes, staring upward. They have watched bombers before. Hundreds of them. They have never seen this. Two American aircraft locked together in a slow-motion death dive. smoke trailing like a wounded beast. Come on, Mercer whispers. The airframe shudders violently. Then, a tearing crack echoes through the cockpit like a rifle shot. The connection at the wing root begins to split. The twisted remains of Liberty Run's fuselage peel backward, metal skin ripping open. A shower of debris scatters into the slipstream. For a fraction of a second, both aircraft hang together by what looks like a single mangled spar. The tail gunner's voice comes through one last time. Tell my mother I. Static. The spar snaps. Liberty Run breaks free. The ruined bomber drops away in a slow, tumbling roll, one wing missing. Engine still spinning uselessly as it falls toward the German countryside below. Mercer does not watch it hit, because Lucky Bell lurches violently upward as the dead weight vanishes. The left wing gashed and bent surges under sudden, uneven lift. The aircraft rolls hard right. Counter it. Daly shouts. Mercer slams left rudder, fighting the spin. The right engine scream at full power. The wounded wing groans but holds. Altitude, 12,000 feet. They are alone now. One engine out. One wing half shredded. Hydraulic lines severed. Electrical systems flickering. And they are still over Germany. Behind them, a column of black smoke marks where Liberty Run has disappeared. The circling Focke-Wulf FW-190 finally commits. It dives. Tracer rounds rip past the cockpit. Mercer banks shallow, keeping speed alive. He cannot outfight a fighter. He cannot climb. He can only survive. The women on the ground watch the falling wreckage in silence. Some cross themselves. Some do not move at all. But their eyes remain fixed on the sky, because one of the bombers is still flying, damaged, alone, and heading west. The fighter closes in from behind, and Mercer's gunners open fire. The sky erupts in tracers. Orange streaks cut past the cockpit as the diving Focke-Wulf FW-190 closes from 6 o'clock. Danny Mercer doesn't look back. He feels the vibration of the .50 caliber guns before he hears them. The top turret opens first short, disciplined bursts. Then the waist guns join in, their rhythm uneven after the collision. One of the gunners is gone. The other braces against a jagged hole where aluminum skin used to be. Come on, come on, the gunner mutters. The FW-190 flashes through the defensive cone, cannons blazing. 20mm rounds slam into Lucky Bell's tail section. The entire aircraft shudders. Warning lights flicker. Hydraulics zero. The engineer shouts, "We're manual only." Mercer keeps the nose slightly down. Speed is life now. Altitude, 10,000 feet. The air is thicker here. Controls respond faster, but so does drag. The damaged left wing trembles violently. Fabric and aluminum flapping like torn canvas. The German pilot overshoots. For a split second, the FW-190 crosses directly in front of the nose. The ball turret gunner, hanging beneath the belly of the aircraft in his cramped steel sphere, tracks instinctively. He fires. A solid burst. Tracer rounds walk across the German fighter's fuselage. One strikes near the engine cowling. Smoke blooms instantly. The FW-190 rolls sharply left, trailing dark smoke, and dives away toward the clouds. No cheer rises inside Lucky Bell. There are only breathing sounds over the interphone. Mercer glances at the fuel gauges. The right inboard tank is leaking. A thin stream trails behind them like a ribbon. "How much?" he asks. "Maybe 40 minutes, the engineer replies. 40 minutes to reach the Dutch coast. 40 minutes over hostile ground. Below them, flak batteries begin adjusting range again. At this altitude, they are easier targets. Black bursts climb upward. One detonates beneath the right wing. Shrapnel tears through the radio compartment. Sparks flash. The interphone crackles and dies. Silence fills the cockpit. Mercer and Daly exchange a look. No more internal coordination. No more clear updates. Just flying. Through the fractured side window, Mercer sees something unexpected on the ground, a road near a rail yard. Vehicles stopped. Soldiers and civilians staring upward. Among them, a cluster of women in heavy coats and work scarves. Some German auxiliaries. Some foreign laborers forced into service. They are not cheering. They are watching in stunned silence as the crippled American bomber limps west alone. Altitude, 8,500 feet. The coastline is still invisible beyond the haze. The left wing groans again, louder this time. A long crack snakes across the wing's upper surface. Daly sees it too. "If that spar goes," he says quietly, "we won't spin. We'll just fold." Mercer nods once. He pushes the throttles forward every remaining ounce of power. Because ahead, somewhere beyond smoke and winter haze, lies the North Sea. The coastline appears like a gray scar on the horizon. Danny Mercer squints through fractured plexiglass. For a moment he thinks it's smoke. Then he sees the thin silver line beyond it. Water? Dutch coast. Daly breathes. Altitude, 7,000 feet and falling. The left wing flexes again to far. The cracked spar opens another inch. Wind whistles through the tier like a living thing. Fuel pressure drops on the right inboard engine. The needle sinks. Engine 3 starving, the engineer calls weakly over the failing interphone. His voice fades in and out with static. Mercer nods even though no one can see him. He cannot afford another asymmetric failure, not now. Below, anti-aircraft guns near the shoreline open up. Black flak blossoms erupt ahead of them, walking toward their path. The Germans are not confused anymore. They want the crippled bomber before it escapes over water. A burst detonates just off the nose. Shrapnel punches through the bombardier's compartment. The northern side is shattered beyond use. Smoke fills the front of the aircraft. Daly coughs. "We can't climb." "We don't climb," Mercer replies evenly. "We run." He lowers the nose slightly to gain speed. The airspeed creeps up. The aircraft shudders but holds. Behind them, two distant shapes appear, dark crosses against pale sky. Another pair of Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters. They approach cautiously, aware this bomber has already survived the impossible. The top turret gunner rotates slowly, tracking. Mercer does quick mental math. Fuel, minutes, structural integrity, unknown. Enemy fighters, closing. The shoreline rushes closer. On the ground, near a coastal battery position, German personnel and civilian workers stare upward. Among them, women assigned to auxiliary service bundled in heavy coats shield their eyes. They see the torn American bomber skimming lower than any fortress should. They see smoke pouring from the engines. They see pieces of aluminum fluttering away in the wind. One of the women steps forward unconsciously, as if drawn to the spectacle. Her expression is not hatred. It is disbelief. The B-17 roars overhead at barely 5,000 feet. The Bf-109s commit. They dive from high 6 o'clock, cannons flashing. The tail gun answers immediately, long controlled bursts. Tracers climb toward the attackers. One fighter breaks away under fire. The second presses closer to close. Rounds slam into the left wing root. The crack widens violently. The entire wing dips. "Danny!" Daly shouts. Mercer slams right rudder and pushes power to maximum. The remaining engines scream in protest. The shoreline flashes beneath them. Sand dunes, coastal guns, and then, open water. The flak stops abruptly as they cross beyond effective range. But the wing is failing. A deep metallic groan vibrates through the fuselage long, sustained, terminal. Mercer stares ahead at the gray North Sea. If the wing tears off over water, they might ditch. If it tears now. The sound is not an explosion. It is a deep, tearing groan like a ship's hull splitting under pressure. Danny Mercer feels the left wing drop half a meter in a single sickening motion. The main spar fractures, not completely, but enough. The aircraft rolls violently left. Warning horns scream. Loose equipment slams against the cockpit walls. Full right, Daly yells. Mercer stands on the right rudder pedal with everything he has. His leg shakes under the strain. The control yoke vibrates like it's alive. Altitude, 3,500 feet. Below them, the North Sea is steel gray and merciless. The right engines are still pulling. The left inboard engine coughs, then surges unevenly. The damaged wing flexes downward again, this time lower than the cockpit window. For one suspended second, Mercer believes it is gone, but it holds. Barely. "We can't keep this in the air," Daly says, voice flat now. "No panic, just truth." Mercer nods once. He pulls the throttles back slightly to reduce stress on the airframe. Speed drops, but the wing stops flexing as violently. They are flying on the edge of aerodynamic collapse. "Prepare to ditch," Mercer says quietly. Behind them, the two distant Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters break off at the coastline. They do not follow over open water. Fuel and range do not allow it. For the first time since Bremen, there are no tracers in the sky. Only wind, only engines, only the groan of tortured aluminum. Mercer scans the horizon. To the west, faint shapes in the haze. Ships. He narrows his eyes. Low silhouettes against the gray sea. Angular superstructures, moving toward the English coast. Convoy. "Do you see that?" Daly asks. "I see it." Altitude, 2,800 feet. Fuel pressure on engine 3 drops again. The needle touches red. If they ditch near those ships, there's a chance. If they stall short, the sea will take them before rescue can arrive. Mercer lowers the nose slightly, trading precious altitude for forward speed. The wing trembles in protest but does not fail. He keys the remaining radio. Static answers. The antenna wire was likely torn in the collision. No distress call. No coordinates. Just a wounded bomber limping toward salvation. Inside the aircraft, the crew brace silently. Some pray, some stare at nothing. Mercer's gloves are soaked with sweat despite the freezing cockpit. Altitude, 1,800 feet. The convoy grows clearer now. Merchant ships escorted by a gray-hulled destroyer cutting through the waves. British, if they can stay airborne to more minutes. The left wing jerks violently again. A sharp metallic crack echoes through the fuselage. The outer panel begins to fold upward under reversed airflow. Daly sees it first. It's going. Mercer tightens his grip. Hold together, he whispers not to the crew, but to the machine. The sea rises toward them, and the wing begins to peel away. The outer section of the left wing folds upward like torn paper. For one breathless second, Danny Mercer thinks it will rip clean off. Instead, the aluminum skin peels back, exposing ribs and fractured spars. But the main structure holds by a final strip of stressed metal. Altitude, 1,200 feet. The North Sea fills the windshield. Flaps are gone, Daly says. Hydraulics dead. We're coming in hot. Mercer nods. There will be no graceful landing. No textbook ditching. Only survival. Ahead, the convoy is close enough now to see movement on deck. Sailors are pointing upward. One merchant vessel begins turning slightly into the wind. The gray escort's sleek, purposeful change is heading to a British destroyer. Men on deck scramble toward railings, binoculars raised. Inside Lucky Bell, the engineer secures what he can. Loose ammunition boxes are kicked aside. One crewman straps himself tighter into his seat. Another crosses himself quietly. Gear up, Mercer says unnecessarily. The landing gear was destroyed long ago. He reduces power slowly to prevent sudden torque. The right engines protest. The damaged wing shivers but stabilizes as speed bleeds off. Altitude, 600 feet. Wind buffets the fractured metal. The aircraft wants to roll left again. Mercer counteracts gently. Any sharp input now could snap what remains of the wing. Steady, steady, Daly whispers, as if guiding a horse through fire. The sea surface rushes upward dark, streaked with whitecaps. At 200 feet, Mercer cuts the mixture on the left inboard engine. It sputters and dies. One less asymmetric pull to fight at touchdown. 100 feet. He raises the nose slightly, not too much. The aircraft stalls gently, almost mercifully. The belly of the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress slams into the water. Impact is violent. The cockpit jolts forward. Glass shatters. Water explodes upward around them in a towering sheet. The damaged left wing tears further but does not separate immediately. The fuselage skips once across the surface, then digs in hard. Everything goes white. Cold sea water floods through torn seams instantly. Out, out, Mercer shouts. The aircraft begins to sink nose first. Crew members scramble through emergency hatches. One slips but is hauled upward by another. Mercer unclips his harness and shoves Daly toward the escape hatch. Water is already knee-deep in the cockpit. They drop into the sea. The shock of cold steals Mercer's breath. Behind him, Lucky Bell tilts steeply. The broken left wing finally tears free as the fuselage slides under. Within seconds, the bomber disappears beneath gray waves. Only debris remains, life rafts inflating automatically on the surface. Mercer surfaces gasping, grabbing hold of a floating raft. He looks around. Heads, 6 of them, not 10. The convoy is turning toward them now at full speed. On the destroyer's deck, sailors are lowering boats. Mercer counts again. 6, for men did not escape. The sea is calm but merciless. The water is knives. Danny Mercer clings to the inflated raft, fingers numb inside soaked gloves. His Mae West life vest keeps him afloat, but barely. The North Sea in October does not forgive mistakes. Over here, someone shouts through chattering teeth. 6 men, scattered but alive. All spreads across the surface where Lucky Bell vanished. Bits of insulation and aluminum drift like fallen leaves. One boot floats alone. Mercer forces himself not to look at it. A siren sounds from the approaching escort. The gray hull cuts through the waves with authority. White ensign snapping at the stern. It is a destroyer of the Royal Navy. On deck, sailors lean over the rails, throwing lines. A motor launch splashes down from davits and speeds toward the survivors. Hold on, Yanks, a British voice calls across the water. Mercer tries to answer but only coughs seawater. He turns once more toward the east. The Dutch coastline is a thin dark line behind them. For a moment, he imagines the people on shore still looking out to sea. The German auxiliaries, the foreign laborers, the women who watched the impossible bomber limp past their batteries. They saw it fly. They saw it fight. They may have seen it fall, but they will never know how it ended. The motor launch reaches the first raft. Sailors haul a gunner aboard, his face blue from cold. Another man is dragged over the side, barely conscious. When they reach Mercer, strong hands grab his harness straps and lift him bodily from the sea. He collapses onto the wooden floor of the launch, shivering uncontrollably. "Easy now," a sailor says, wrapping him in a rough wool blanket. "You're safe." Safe. The word feels foreign. As the launch pulls away, Mercer watches the destroyer's hull grow larger. The name on her stern becomes readable, HMS Bulldog. Sailors line the deck as the Americans are brought aboard. No cheers, just quiet efficiency. The North Sea has claimed too many men for celebration. Mercer is carried up the gangway. His boots leave water trails on steel decking. A medic kneels beside him immediately, checking pupils, checking for fractures. "How many?" the medic asks. "6, Mercer answers hoarsely. The medic pauses. "You're lucky," he says simply. Mercer closes his eyes. Lucky. 4 airmen are gone, 1 still in the shattered wreckage over Germany. 1 in a falling bomber, 2 likely trapped in the sinking fuselage. Below deck, in the warmth of the wardroom, tea is pressed into his shaking hands. British sailors glance at him with something close to disbelief. "Is it true?" one finally asked quietly. "2 of you collided, and kept flying." Mercer stares into the steam rising from the cup. "For a while," he replies. Outside, the destroyer turns west toward England. But the story of what happened over Germany is already spreading among factory workers, among anti-aircraft crews, among those women who stood frozen beneath the sky. They will tell it for years. The day two bombers became. 2 days later, Danny Mercer stands on English soil. The airfield is wet with autumn rain. Mud clings to boots. Ambulances idle near the dispersal hut as surviving crew members from Lucky Bell are processed through medical checks. They are wrapped in borrowed RAF greatcoats now. American wings still pinned crookily to damp uniforms. A staff car arrives from group headquarters. Inside the operations room, intelligence officers lean forward as Mercer recounts every second. Altitude, bearing, engine failures, the moment of collision. "You're certain the other aircraft remained attached for several minutes?" one officer asks. Mercer nods once. "Yes, sir." Another officer exchanges a glance with a Royal Air Force liaison. They have heard rumors already. German radio chatter intercepted along the coast. Reports from observers claiming 2 fortresses fused together over Bremen. One officer finally speaks. "Berlin propaganda is calling it an American trick aircraft. Some kind of new design." Mercer almost laughs. "It wasn't a design," he says quietly. "It was an accident." But even accidents can become legend. Across the channel, in occupied territory, civilians and forced laborers repeat what they saw. Women assigned to auxiliary service near the rail yard swear the 2 bombers flew as one, trailing smoke yet refusing to fall. Anti-aircraft crews argue about how it stayed airborne at all. Among Luftwaffe pilots, the story spreads too of a crippled fortress that survived collision, flak, and fighters before escaping toward the sea. And beneath the North Sea, twisted aluminum rests in silence. The wreck of a Boeing B-17 flying fortress lies broken on the seabed, not whole, not victorious, but defiant to the end. Back at the barracks, Mercer sits alone on his bunk. The room smells of damp wool and aviation fuel. Outside, engines from other B-17s start up for another mission over Germany. He listens. He should feel pride. Instead, he sees the moment the 2 aircraft touched. The frozen instant where physics should have claimed them both. He hears the tail gunner's final words cut short. He counts again. 6 survived, 4 did not. War is not miracle or myth. It is weight and consequence. A chaplain visits briefly, offering quiet words. Mercer thanks him but says little. That night, as rain taps against the window, he writes letters. One to the mother of the tail gunner from Liberty Run. He does not describe the collision in detail. He writes instead that her son remained at his post until the end. Because that part is true. Weeks later, official commendations are issued. Citations mention extraordinary airmanship under extreme conditions. They do not mention the women who watch from below. They do not mention the disbelief on German faces. History records tonnage dropped, targets hit, aircraft lost. But sometimes, it also remembers the impossible. The day 2 bombers smashed together over Nazi Germany and flew on long enough to choose how their story would end.